in!
4 helicopters? What is this mall? And they're armed. And now we know it's whoever holds the device is in command of the power. But I still don't know if it's technology or magic. Is Santa real in the Ben 10 universe? Or is everybody here just crazy delusional?
20 years will never be in fashion!
Oh, Gwen. Wait until you see the internet nowadays. What's up guys, Kuro the Artist here, welcome back to another Ben 10 breakdown. Today we'll be taking a look at some Season 3 episodes where the show starts to delve into some really weird territory. As with any show, when it starts to go on for a few seasons, we start to see some repetition with tropes and plot lines used throughout many franchises. And shows usually at least try to take their own spin on it, if they're gonna do it. Let me ask you, with basically any TV show you've seen that's ran for a few seasons, do you remember it having an episode about hypnosis? Maybe an episode about switching brains, or even a Christmas special? Well, now it's time for Ben 10 to give those cliches a go, and let me tell you, it does get a bit weird. If this is your first breakdown and you're wondering how my rating system works, there's a detailed description down below along with a link to all of my previous breakdowns. But by all means, stick around and watch this video first, I'm sure you'll still find something to enjoy. But before we begin, let's check out these quick updates. So earlier this week, Derek J. Wyatt finally released his Omniverse Fast Track design, meaning that every alien that didn't appear in Omniverse by its finale now has an Omniverse design. This is the first time a series has given every single alien transformation a proper character design, and whether or not it was actually used in the show, it's still pretty cool to see. Maybe one day we'll get a Ben 10 show where Ben will use every single one of his aliens, but for now, we can only hope. Let's also take a look at the results of last week's poll. The topic was if Ben 10,000 was actually a jerk like the episode would lead you to believe, or if his actions, though not exactly the best, were at least justified in the fact that he was misunderstood. Surprisingly, 80% of you guys agreed with me. I did try to stress for you guys to vote with your own true beliefs regardless of what I said, so I'm glad to see many of you guys are able to sympathize with Ben 10,000 the same way that I have. Series Regular wrote the episode Midnight Madness, which first aired December 2nd, 2006. Sublimino, a hypnotist performing at a mall, gets Ben trapped under his hypnotic spell and uses his aliens to steal parts to build a giant hypnosis watch, which he will use to then enslave everybody at the mall and then soon the entire country.
500 stores, 72 restaurants, 48 movie screens.
That's a huge mall.
Hey, in the name of mall security!
Step 1, assess your authority. I like this use of silhouettes to disguise the fact it's old people. Hypnotized or not, it's sort of like the Charm of Bazelle Lucky Girl situation where your body still has to be physically able to do that, right? Unless his hypnosis, like, makes it so that if he wants something to happen, reality will bend to make it happen no matter what, thus temporarily granting these old people some superpowers. Check out the new video coming soon, Why Sublimino is Stronger Than You Think. Thanks for pausing it. All this stuff too, it's like, wow, you know, this fight choreography is pretty solid too. Refocus your breath, it's very important. Hey, the CG rust bucket is back. The blending is done pretty well, but what kills it here is that the wheels aren't turning even though the vehicle is turning. Also the lack of shadow the first couple of frames, although it does form starting here. In fact, in this next shot, it just corrected both of those issues I had. You can see the wheels turning and the shadow stays with it the entire time. Problem here though is now the shadow goes over the road. But that's another thing you wouldn't really notice unless you're going frame by frame like I am. That thing rammed Vilgax's ship. That's not getting dented.
Looking for something, officer?
I mean, they still ran from the cops. That's pretty suspicious.
The mall's gonna pay for all the repairs.
What kind of mall are they going to?
Behold Sublimino! First I shall require some volunteers.
Only somebody with half a brain can be hypnotized.
It's still fun to go up and participate, though. I participated in a hypnosis event once during my town's fair, and like, yeah, it didn't work, but you still could go up and give them a show. Just play along and make people laugh, you know? Don't be a buzzkill.
Focus only on this pocket watch as it swings.
Wait, hold on, that's Richard Horvitz. He does gray matter in this show, but he's also more famously known for playing Invader Zim. Why would he even have that first watch in the first place? He switches it here so that you know he's doing something special, but he could have just been using it from the beginning. And I'm curious if these waves are just for us as the audience to know what's happening, or if these characters can all actually see these yellow ripples. Because that alone would impress me. Can you imagine seeing that if you went to a live show?
Blackmail time.
Before iPhones.
Why is Ben acting like a chicken?
Yeah, Grandpa didn't raise no chicken. You either got thick skin or you're out the rust bucket, Ben.
You are an alien.
What are the odds?
No!
Everybody saw that. I don't really mind when highlights have an outline around them, but when you only do it to one eye, that's a bit strange. Ah, the old grapes trope. I feel like it's starting to lose its relevancy by now. Nobody really wants this anymore. Like, I'd rather be shoveling grapes into my mouth instead of having it fed to me one at a time. Also, Gray Matter's got a ton of weird frames in his blink here. The black stripes are colored in green, which is even more noticeable when he blinks. But then there's even this one frame right here. Demonic Gray Matter. Wow, nice catch.
It's been a long day, and we could all use some
Whoa, that's not how this cabinet's supposed to work. What happened to the drop down?
to take care of both Vilgax and Kevin. It's been a long day, and we could all use some shut-eye.
Somebody stole the motor from the Sea Dragon ride. What do you make of this?
Grandpa's about to slap the shit out of you. I wonder how that didn't wake her last time. Also, normally they have pajama outfits, but I guess it's laundry day this episode. That was an electrical teleportation power. He merges up into the lights, and after they shock for a bit, the sign starts freaking out, and he comes out of here. That's really cool. I can only remember him doing something similar in that old animated promo where Ben was drawn in more of an anime style. I don't remember where it came from or what it was for, but there was this old video. I'm pretty sure it was called Make It Fast or something. He just cycles through his 10 aliens, and Upgrade does that electrical teleportation thing in it too. If you guys know what that was for, please let me know, because that was always just some obscure video from back in the early days of the fandom that seemed to just start existing at some point in time with no origin. At least for me.
Halt! In the name of mall security!
They gotta announce that every time? 4 helicopters? What is this mall? And they're armed. So this probably speaks to the fact that Upgrade can still be hurt by physical means. This is a very creative effect. The blades are not only turning but disappearing every other frame, but in motion you can definitely see how that's useful. Wow, Ben's just murdering them.
Time sure flies when you go alien.
Come on, Gwen. Although this design is pretty great. I dig clock grade. Also, where's this backlight supposed to be coming from when this garage door lifts? I feel like it's such a common trope to see this type of shot when a door opens, where it's pure white behind against a silhouette, that people just do it just to do it now. It almost feels like you have to do it, or else it'll be weird, but here it doesn't make any sense. This episode has some fantastic animation for Upgrade. High props to this. And after I say that, we get a shot like this.
Upper safety is our #1 priority.
I mean, with the arsenal they have at their disposal just for mall security, I'd believe it.
Why would I go alien and then steal bizarre stuff?
You like never see Grandpa Max actually sit down at this table. He's always driving or standing. It's really weird seeing him sit.
We're gonna have to keep you awake until we can figure out how to stop your midnight strolls.
Oh, that's gotta be miserable. Ah. Not that I'm advocating for Gwen to be a jerk, but it's at least good to see that Ben and Gwen both treat each other like this, and it's not one-sided. Because if it was just Ben who treated Gwen like a jerk, that would just seem way too abusive. But both Ben and Gwen just enjoy pulling pranks on each other, so it balances it out. Still more of a fan of them being supportive family members, though.
Turn down the heat, will you?
But isn't the heat normally controlled at the dashboard you're currently sitting at, Grandpa?
Ben!
He does seem to be missing his fire trail when he flies off. And red hands, we haven't seen that before.
You've got to snap out of this!
And I really like how this fireball forms. First he creates a sphere of flames, and then some of the excess flames start trailing off in this beautiful swirl. Then we get this nice flaming wave that digs into the ground, shakes the camera. It seems like the mall's got the actual SWAT team involved.
Everybody out!
Yeesh. This episode takes a lot of liberties with these models. Everything is slightly different shaped in this episode, probably handled by a different studio. Like, look how thin Ben's arms are. His head's not even connected to his body right here. Heat Blast was drawn a little funky in the last scene too, but I didn't say anything. Grandpa Max's head too. Throughout this episode, it seems slightly bigger than it normally is. The animation's on point though. It's got great animation. This is a subtle but nice effect, how Gwen is out of focus and slowly walks into focus when she starts speaking. This episode's got me going back and forth on if it looks good or not.
If you can't touch the Omnitrix, you can't go alien.
Greetings, mall rats.
So this mall is at least 5 floors tall. I don't know about you, but I've never seen a mall with actual TV screens hanging around like this. So building this giant watch and allowing it to work shows that Sublimino's hypnotic ability comes from the technology he creates. So it's not some superpower or some magic enchantment, he's just building technology that's advanced enough to start putting people in submissive trances. Although you do see the big watch is activated by the little watch here, so maybe it is the watch that is the source of his power.
Bring me all the riches of this place.
One hit from a hammer, and she breaks it open. Never forget, Gwen hits hella hard. That's a pretty smart solution. Although I feel like if he really wanted to, he could activate the Omnitrix from behind his back. He just wouldn't be able to see what he's selecting or transforming into.
You may control every last person.
What about our plan?
So sometimes Wildvine moves around by slithering his tentacles like snakes, and other times he crawls around like a spider. I'm not sure which movement style I like more. There's so many good shots in this episode when it comes to the mall. It's very colorful, it's fairly detailed. Like this shot of the toy store right here got shown for 1 second and probably took a guy an entire day to do it. It's a great episode for Wildvine too. And this shot right here. Yeah, the animation definitely gets an A+ for me. It's just the models are hit or miss. Good thing these weren't the exploding seeds. And now we know it's whoever holds the device is in command of the power. But I still don't know if it's technology or magic. Hey, the license plate is different in this episode. This is the CG Rust Bucket, so maybe the license plate is wrong on the CG model, or they got it replaced eventually. I remember not really liking it too much as a kid, and while I did enjoy myself watching it now, a lot of the same problems I had back in the day I still have now. I don't want to come down too hard on it, but I gotta start off by giving this a plot of a 1. There was a lot of great jokes in this episode, and it was pretty lighthearted, but Sublimino is just your typical throwaway villain, which at this point where the last episode we just went to the future, and while we're still not super galactic like we get in Alien Force, at this point in the show it's kind of tiresome seeing these type of villains show up. The hypnosis was an interesting aspect, but so much of it didn't have too much support, and like I always say, classic series isn't really one to explain itself too much, but there's many times where it does go out of its way to try to explain and justify a lot of its mechanics. So when you see something like hypnosis in a show like Ben 10, you want to know how it works, and I still don't know. The Rust Bucket getting damaged was kind of unbelievable. With the front bumper shield activated or not, it's definitely durable enough to handle a smack into a pole. The mall was treated like a giant military force at one point. I mean, 4 helicopters and all of these squad cars. I can understand that maybe seeing the aliens on the news is what attracted the attention of the SWAT team. And you know, in Kevin's episode, that warehouse was pretty heavily guarded too. It's just sometimes the Ben 10 world doesn't care about aliens, and at the other time, they'll have a whole task force like Lieutenant Steele's to take them down. So whenever you see this crazy amount of like law enforcement support and use them as the obstacle for Ben in that scenario, it's always just kind of goofy. Also, Sublimino's plan, going through all of the efforts to put together this giant contraption just to rob a mall. This episode is definitely supposed to be goofy on purpose, but a lot of the finer details of this episode are just a bit too goofy for Ben 10, at least in the world we've established so far. And then after Ben swipes Sublimino's watch, we don't see what happens to him. We don't even see if he goes to jail or not. And if it is technology based, can Sublimino just make a new watch? And then what happens to the giant watch in the mall? It's like things in this episode only exist during the time they're relevant, and then it all just immediately goes away once they're not. But I can move the ratings into a positive swing with characterization and give that a 4. The only reason it's not getting a 5 is because Sublimino is so one note. His goals are standard, he has no definitive personality, and his character character has no resolution after Ben swipes his watch. But Ben and Gwen themselves, they're played great in this episode. There's a lot of good interactions with them. It's very humorous. And their bickering here doesn't seem mean. It seems more of like in a playful, pranking manner than them actually arguing and being upset with each other. And Grandpa, of course, acting as a strong voice of reason fits perfectly for him. I just wish I got more out of Sublimino than I did here. Visuals though, I will give a solid 5. Like I said throughout the breakdown, a lot of the animation models are a little bit wonky, mostly Grandpa Max and Ben's aliens, but the animation here was just so good. Like season finale good. Strangely for this episode, I don't know why. So I just have to give it a 5 for that. Backgrounds too, backgrounds are very detailed. There's indoors and outdoors, there's different locations, everything is drawn very well. All the fight choreography is fantastic. So yeah, I would say this episode is well deserving of a 5 in visuals. Importance will drop it back down to a 1 again though. The only reason it even has a point is because Sublimino does show up in the -10, although he basically has no impact on it and they don't even get his voice actor to come back and voice him. But other than that brief connection to the series finale, you can easily skip this episode. And as for entertaining, it'll get the average 3. It's just entertaining enough to not be boring, but it really doesn't have anything going for it. I mean, it's cool to see Ben running from the cops. That leaves this episode at a 14 out of 25, a fairly average score. Let's move on to the next one. On December 9th, 2006, Pugsley and Klein's A Change of Face had premiered. Charmcaster's plan to switch brains with Ben goes wrong when Gwen accidentally gets in the way, and she switches with her instead. With Charmcaster pretending to be Gwen, Gwen in Charmcaster's body must break out of jail and warn Ben of her true plans. I've actually been to Salem, Massachusetts. It's kinda like this, but this is pretty exaggerated. And here we have another very useful spell we'll probably never see again. So this is a strange mistake that happens every now and then, where Ben can just activate the Omnitrix by pressing the dial. Pretty sure it's just to save time and animation, which is fine, but in the first episode when they go out of their way to explain the functions of the Omnitrix,
All you do is press this button. Then when the ring pops up, just twist it until you see the guy you want to be. Slam it down and bam!
it kind of makes you want to look out for every time Ben uses it to make sure he's doing it correctly. So like your eyes can't help but be drawn to making sure that he's doing it right. This is also probably my favorite way that they have the silhouettes transition between each other when they spin into place as he keeps turning them. It's just a really nice effect. When she throws these little orbs, they kind of just appear out from behind her. Also, I love to give props to animators who have to have a character look through a window, because you basically have to have the frames sync up perfectly from 2 different angles. And this is something that if you don't get right, it's very obvious. Charmcaster wasted no time. The second she sees Ben, traps him in the spell. That's how it should be done. Should I have made a counter for the amount of times they've used that scream for Gwen? This has got to be at least like 7.
No, not you!
This is another excellent example of a combination between traditional and digital effects. They're drawn to be fusing together, but it's also enhanced by some digital flares and warpings. Ooh, Stinkfly's wings are transparent here. I think they're always supposed to be, but it's such a hard effect to keep up, so most of the time they're not. This is another episode that has some very exaggerated scenes, probably boarded by the same person that does. The first episode that comes to mind that has the same type of animative expressions is Gwen 10.
Only if you say please. Or like a trained seal.
It's not in every episode, so when it's there, it kind of stands out, but I also really appreciate it. It's also a really nice change-up.
You're not going to ruin my plans this time, little Miss Goody Goody.
I'm really glad they didn't switch voices, and Charmcaster can fly. Oh no, Charmcaster has access to Gwen's infinite strength.
What's going on?
It's Charmcaster. She must have been behind this whole thing.
Charmcaster was a much better liar in her first episode.
So, then once you've dialed in the alien you want, you just slam it back down and you're ready to kick butt?
See, here they go. They're explaining how the watch works again. So, you know, when they don't animate it correctly, you get it.
I'm too smart for you, freak.
Nobody calls me a freak. Nobody. Ow!
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, Ben. Can you forgive me?
I wonder if this is how Charmcaster actually thinks Gwen acts, or if she's just fucking with him.
You have the wrong person.
Yeah, that's what they all say.
Law enforcement at its finest. And of course they get to wear whatever they want in here. They didn't even search her.
Halloween costume in the summer? Good one, Pinky. Shut up.
Are these Cash and JT's older sisters? A lot of great background detail for this episode. They're really going all out here.
Barf.
Sea urchin eggs? What do I look like, Mr. Seafood Gourmet?
Yeah, imagine just making fun of a little girl because she asked a really weird question. Like, you never know, he could be selling those eggs. Might as well ask. Also, Gwen openly using her magic in public should be a good sign that something isn't right for the Tennysons.
Happen to you when you're not.
They're just gonna let that happen too? Probably faster just running, are you kidding me?
Look out, coming through! Oh, sorry!
And this is a really good shot. There's some camera shake, the background is redrawn every time, but it doesn't look too funky per frame. Lots of solid perspectives. There's this dog again. They keep reusing this dog model over and over. Man, and this keeps going too. Bravo for whoever did this shot. Let's watch it again.
Look out, coming through! Oh, sorry!
Excellent. It's so seamless because it's done so well. And banana peel? Yup, gotta come out of a dumpster with a banana peel in cartoons. Great thinking, Ben. Not to mention the great animation, too. You can see that all of these shards are just falling into place to create this ramp. Each construct is carefully placed, and some of them even miss, too, so it's like Ben did this accidentally. There's also some debris falling off of Ben. I feel like in later seasons, when the animation is a little less precise, you would just see some shards fall onto the ground, and then they would magically be in the perfect shape for it to be a ramp. But here, it looks like it's just an accidental collision, and each shard is individually animated. This is already one of my favorite Diamond Head scenes, period. I just really love the excess crystals and all the debris that come off with him, because that's not a smooth surface. He's probably scraping against this. This part was my favorite, where he creates 3 different ones in a succession. I wonder who thought of this, if this was in the script or in the storyboards, or if this was a planned power all the way up from the start. I mean, it's not something he hasn't done before in terms of his abilities, but using them this way is certainly unique and entertaining. And they've got really solid poses for Diamond Head with every frame.
You guys messed with the wrong little girl.
She just shows up. So is that a teleporting spell?
Don't you think we should help them?
Let him suffer.
Charmcaster's book of spells. So that's how she did it. She wanted to switch with Ben. That way she could get the Omnitrix.
Well, thank God Gwen is this smart to figure all of that out in an instant. I'm being a little critical about it, but I mean, like, you know, she saw one page in a book and she instantly figured everything out. That's kind of a stretch. Or a testament to her skill, you know, that's arguable, but you can't say it doesn't stand out as a bit strange.
So what you got there? You've been holding out on us.
What do you think it is, drugs? It's a book.
What it is.
So if Gwen's aware that she has access to all of Charmcaster's spells and magical tricks, and we've seen at the beginning of the episode she can create an explosion, you know that she can just break out of here, like, at any second. Or is Gwen only selectively clever? So everyone's just gonna ignore they just saw magic. Well, we're in season 3. I mean, the world's seen some shit by now.
You notice that Gwen's been acting kind of weird today?
Just because she wants to follow in her grandfather's culinary footsteps.
You know, I bet Max does notice, but he just doesn't want to ruin whatever's happening because he really wants Gwen to make that dish. Yeah, I'll let my granddaughter attack someone with an octopus as long as I get a good meal out of it.
Those must have been expensive.
I sweet-talked them into giving me a deal.
Even if she didn't, Grandpa's just not questioning that Gwen would be able to afford those. Wonder how much money her parents gave her for this summer trip.
I think I found a way out of here.
Or blow a hole in the wall. Yeah, do that to the wall. Ooh, so does this imply that the bag is sentient? Or is there a spell that just summons it back to Charmcaster whenever she's too far away?
Check it out.
Oh, that was drawn, wasn't it? Yeah, these aren't background layers scaling. This zoom shot was drawn frame by frame.
Check it out.
The bag is casting a shadow, the river is running, the bag interacts with the water, the shadow even changes direction appropriately. Whichever studio worked on this episode, you guys are doing a great job today.
If I ever see you again, princess.
I think she's got a crush.
She says you're not you and she's not herself, but that you're each other. That's what I think she's saying.
It's not that hard.
I was just lucky you have a magical aura, or none of my spells would have worked.
But if she changes bodies with Ben, do his aliens have a magical aura? Because then that's a big flaw in your plan right there, Charmcaster.
I'm the real sorceress, remember?
Do you hear that? It sounds like they dubbed something there. Listen.
I'm the real sorceress, remember?
It sounds like she's going, I'm the real sorceress, remember? What could they have dubbed? I mean, They've said witch before in the show, so I don't see why they'd censor that. In fact, they said it in this episode. Maybe I'm the real witch could be misheard as I'm the real bitch, and that would like cause issues. I don't know. Maybe it's just shoddy sound editing. No hate to the sound guys. I mean, maybe they didn't have a lot to work with. I don't know, but it's just kind of noticeable. One more time.
I'm the real sorceress, remember?
Let me know in the comments what you guys think happened there.
I'm me again.
I'm you! Gross!
Cause I'm going hero.
Or not wearing the Omnitrix doofus.
So a lot of brain swap episodes in cartoons usually have the voices switched so that you can keep on point of who's whose, but they already had Gwen and Charmcaster switch and their voices stayed the same, and I liked that. It gave the voice actors a chance to try to pretend to be somebody else, but here they just switched the voice actors? I don't know. You can't do both methods in the same episode. That's just... doesn't really fit.
Which way do you turn this thingy?
Gotta press the button.
Oh, and your cooking stinks.
It does?
Why you gotta hurt him like that?
Hurry up and go forearms.
Whoa, this is kinda cool.
So now they're taking it a step further where the aliens have a female voice, but it's not even Gwen's voice. That's Max for you. He can handle himself. Whoa, that's a big face on Cannonbolt. Oh, and they were doing so good keeping things on model.
It's over.
Yeah, I guess Cannonbolt's just a hard one for them. The tips of his mouth are inconsistent, and he's much skinnier than he should be. So this whole thing of Charmcaster aiming and then turning the cannonballs is pretty cool, but completely unnecessary when she can literally just shoot energy blasts and stuff. Not to mention her mouth doesn't move and her eyes are a bit cross-eyed when she's doing this. Yeah, the first like 3/4 of this episode looked really solid. I guess they're losing it a bit here.
Oh, Gwen's got some moves.
So did Ben just backflip and hope for the best? You don't just involuntarily backflip and dodge 2 cannonballs. Oh, I love the way this punch is animated. So much swing and force into it.
Hope this experience made you appreciate each other a little more.
Nah.
Well, at least they're honest.
Welcome back, princess.
Oh please, they can't even touch Charmcaster. Okay, another episode in the can. So this is an episode I actually thought I was gonna enjoy breaking down a lot more than I did. When I was watching it, I was kind of struggling to find things to say about it. I mean, the visuals are excellent, don't get me wrong, and it's certainly entertaining, but from my typical analytical perspective, there really isn't too much here. I'm gonna have to kick the plot off with a 2. Usually Charmcaster has a lot more for her, but here her plan doesn't make any sense. It's just a typical take over the world plotline, and her whole comment about Gwen having a magical aura so her spells still work gets completely contradicted with Ben and his alien forms. Plus, I feel there was just way too much time spent on Gwen in jail. It was cool to see Gwen try to figure out interesting ways to try to use being Charmcaster to her advantage in scenarios, but I would have picked a different setting than a jail, especially because she can easily break out of one. In fact, the very first time you ever see Charmcaster is literally her breaking someone out of jail, so there's just a lot of contradictory things going on here, both with the episode and with the lore of Ben 10, that I can't give it any more than a 2. Characterization will also get a 3. Max was especially ignorant in this episode for some reason. Usually he's very smart and planning, but here he was just kind of the butt of the confusion jokes, and he completely overlooked the fact that Gwen was acting suspicious. And there were moments where both Gwen and Charmcaster seemed very smart, but there were also moments where both of them just seemed so, I don't know, what's the opposite of clever without being rude? Like, Charmcaster's plan obviously doesn't work due to her own logic, and Gwen is usually the smart one and has many smart moments in this episode, but also fails to see the obvious in other scenarios. Ben was written pretty well, and I liked how he was suspicious about Gwen, so he was a little bit smarter, but at the same time, I feel like he wouldn't let a lot of the things that Charmcaster did in Gwen's body go. Like in this episode, he's like, oh, that's kind of weird, and shrugs it off. I feel like even Ben would try to make a point to do something about it. Visuals, I'm pretty confident in giving this a 5. Lots of different locations and backgrounds, lots of fantastic animation. There was some very effective posing in here, and there was significantly less animation errors in this episode compared to a typical Ben 10 episode, and I really liked the use of digital enhancements for Charmcaster's spells, but they still primarily went with a traditional route. Importance arguably can have a 0. It's a very inconsequential episode, but I will give it a 1 just because it does have a subtle impact on the fandom. In the image you see of Charmcaster's Transfera Identica spell inside of her book also recurs throughout the rest of the series whenever you see a magic book. Kind of like a little Easter egg, and it's nice to notice if you can see it. So I'd say if you're on a strictly important Ben 10 binge, this episode helps out with some community understanding and Easter eggs, but it's ultimately an inconsequential and very skippable episode. And entertaining, I'll give it a 4. It does keep your interest the entire time, and there's a lot of cool and engaging things happening here, but I feel like it's just not as rewatchable as some of the other ones that have scored a 5 in entertainment. So we're gonna wrap up this breakdown with a 15 out of 25. Let's go ahead and knock that last one out the way. Merry Christmas, first airing December 11th, 2006, and written by Duncan Rouleau. On one of the hottest days of the year, the Tennysons accidentally stumble across Holiday Village, where everything is magically Christmas themed. But the head elf, Mr. Jingles, mistakes Grandpa Max for Santa Claus, and uses him as a figurehead to justify his secret curse across the village. Ben and Gwen have to destroy the Jingulator in order to free Max and all of the elf slaves. And no, I'm not kidding. Cool attention to detail. As the rust bucket comes in, it's warped a little bit due to heat distortion. God, 108? That's dangerously high.
Time to go small to get cool.
Grey Matter's got some serious acrobatic skill. Look at this trick he does with his feet. Very impressive, Ben. Bravo. So this must have been tricky to line up with the traditional effects on the digital rust bucket. Still looks pretty good, though.
Doesn't look good.
I guess Grey Matter disagrees. Very lucky that they stumble across this place. No signs, no parking lot, no nothing. If they didn't crash, this would probably be stuck here forever.
Giant toy soldiers?
Why is it dark first? The snow animation has some good variety too. There's some out of focus and in focus snowflakes, so it gives it that depth. A lot of animation, when they add like rain or snow effects, they just place it on top and make everything the same size, and it looks like an actual filter. And breaths too, when they're inside. Classic never fails to amaze me at the detail they put in for their sub animations and additional effects.
Snowball!
Man, I've never been able to do that. All of my friends, when it's snowing, they would just pick up snowballs and make them with their hands. My hands would be way too cold for that. Do you guys grab snow with your bare hands? I don't know, maybe it's just me. I got tender hands. What are they gearing up for here? Because at the end of the episode, we realize that they treat this as if it's the traditional Santa lore, where this all gets loaded up into Santa's sleigh and he goes around the world. So what's the objective right now? I love how the reindeer's got a little face mask though. That's very cute. This snow pattern definitely didn't plan out as well as some of the other stuff in this episode. We got some loose pixels, some weird cropping and overlap here. And you'd think it's because it's super zoomed in, but as we get further and further towards the top, you can see it's pixely all the way through. Now, are these guys also slaves like the elves? Or is it just the elves? Like, where is this coming from? I haven't seen this one in a bit. I'm not gonna lie, this is one of my least favorite episodes to rewatch. See, this would be way too cold for me. I'd be fucking freezing.
And it appears he's decided to shave. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see anybody around. Who can I pay for the cocoa?
Max just about to rob that store?
Finally have a chance to meet.
Who's Mr. Jingles? Richard Doyle. Okay. He's not too frequently featured in Ben 10. You guys might know him as Enoch and Driscoll, and the first Bowman.
I've been so worried it wouldn't meet with your approval. Why, of course, Mr. Claus.
Is Santa real in the Ben 10 universe? Or is everybody here just crazy delusional?
I created Holiday Village just for you.
With magic? Yeah, that looks like magic, alright. Oh, that can't be sanitary. Magic that still needs technology. Kind of like Sublimino, I guess.
Attention, my elves. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Santa's coming to town.
Santa! And always use more elves.
For what? That's a little rough.
You must skedaddle! Waddle?
I mean, I say skedaddle. Am I old?
Time those wooden nutcrackers became firewood. Ah, man. Cool. Peppermint.
I gotta say, I'm not a fan of them using this pixel texture everywhere. It's starting to really stand out and not look all that great. How does Gwen even get the momentum enough to push him down like that through all this thick snow? You ever try jumping in snow? She hit him so hard she got her foot stuck. Don't even get me started on how he'd have to make those snowballs with claws.
I was thinking more like a snowball slaughterfest.
That's the kind of Ben that wants to kill Kevin in Ultimate Alien.
You will fall under the curse of the village.
Right.
So this is a good transition between his regular eyes and the elf eyes, as it happens with the blink. But because they need to draw his ears on a separate layer, right before it happens, you get an additional line that separates the ear from the face more clearly.
Well, it looks like I'm not the only one.
And we hear the sound effect right here for it happened to Gwen.
Well, it looks like
But Gwen doesn't actually change until the camera changes shots.
only one.
Pointy ears will never be in fashion.
Oh, Gwen. Wait until you see the internet nowadays.
He believes your grandpa is Santa.
I know why you look so unhappy. You've had nothing to laugh about.
Or it's because you kidnapped him and now you control his physical body.
Stop. No.
Oh, that would just make me sneeze all over him. Why not? Whoa. I always appreciate a good morphing animation, though it looks like only one of them needed a hat to activate. I gotta say, you know, this episode definitely isn't my favorite, but I'm really digging all of the monsters in it. When it comes to character and creature design, this episode really has a lot to show. All these portraits are pretty nice too.
And that's you.
How can you tell?
When was that taken?
Just a few days ago. 1932, of course.
So is time moving incredibly slow for them? Like from an outside perspective, is everybody moving in like obnoxiously slow motion? Imagine they don't end the spell, but they leave the village and now it's like 2075 or something.
Follow me.
Sure.
You'd have to destroy the Jingulator. It's what makes everything here magical.
Remember,
This is great.
he's from Europe.
Cultural ignorance. The best excuse. I really like how this is drawn. Gotta love whenever the classic series gets a bit comic booky. Look at these bears.
You know how I frown upon my elves thinking for themselves?
And remember, kids, Christmas is all about conformity.
Our motto in Holiday Village.
Oh, he's never needed that before. Earlier, he was just shouting.
Put them on the assembly line. Everything must be perfect, 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 perfect.
That's me when I'm stressing out about work.
It's running out.
The Jingulator.
4 big arms.
I swear, every single time that gray matter is a mistransformation, they use the camera to show a blank background and then pan down. Like, I get it, it's funny, gray matter is small, but when you do it every single time, it's like, I don't know, it really doesn't matter. I personally notice it, so it irks me. Oh my god. Yeah, these gears are suffering from the same pixely fake. This shouldn't be in the full shot. They probably could have saved it with at least a little bit of blur and make it look like it was a little out of focus. Just enough so you can still appreciate and see the detail, but you can't see the pixels. Let's see, something like this. Yeah, like right here. Now just imagine gray matter and the foot were in focus, and this would probably be fine. I'm getting some Battle for Bikini Bottom vibes here. I'm not gonna lie, I sucked at platformers when I was a kid. Like, hot garbage. Now I'm alright. Like, I can get through a level, but I can't, like, speed through them like some people can. What is this? Is that pure magic? Pure Christmas spirit or something? God, come on, Ben 10. Don't leave me hanging here. The Jingulator! No! Looks like he blew up the Chitauri mothership. Man, the multicolored explosions is pretty cool, though. They even have glows of different colors. Look, this is very nice. Oh, and they're changing colors, too. I'm almost inspired to try to do something like this myself. I have no reason to make smoke animation right now, though.
Not working!
Come here!
Throw him over the edge!
Why are we still elves?
Oh, this is the first time we've seen Ben, like, grow out of a transformation. This is something Omniverse does a lot, but I never caught this in the original series.
Is there still a curse?
Cause now nobody will ever be able to experience the joy of Christmas.
What?
What will Santa do?
Is Santa real?
It's about the spirit in which we give.
Yeah, Max is Santa. I'm gonna believe that.
Being together is what Christmas is all about.
Actually, it's technically about the misconstrued birth of Christ, but...
My reindeer can't fly anymore since the Jingulator is destroyed.
You tried Amazon?
You adjust this dial.
That's how he delivers it all in one night.
Alright, but like... I mean, you know, you get it. What's happening here?
Christmas in summer? Cool!
Hey, the roadmap is supposed to be my thing. So Ben didn't time out that entire time. Around the world in 10 minutes. Is that a feat? Should we scale that? What? And now all these people are reappearing? So some of them weren't even elves. They just straight up got vaporized for a few decades, I guess. But they're all wearing modern clothes. I don't... There's the parking lot.
No machine. Guess Holiday Village is normal too.
Alright, if I don't point this out, everyone's gonna get upset. But yes, These characters are based on characters from Naruto. In fact, I'm pretty sure this was the first Easter egg anyone ever caught in Ben 10, so it's kind of got a legacy to it. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure we've all seen this posted a billion times by now. It's just if I don't say it...
If we broke the curse, Hellsgood was never trapped here in the first place.
Is that what it means? Like, does that mean you guys were never trapped here in the first place? Because you guys still all went through that.
Holiday Village. It's the spirit in which it is given.
Now, why does that sound familiar?
So did they time travel? Oh boy, so here we go. I did not like that episode. Now, just as much as I try to be fair in my rankings with episodes I love and not give them too much glory, I'm also gonna try to be fair here and not just rank this episode horribly just because I myself am not a fan. That being said though, I genuinely believe that this plot needs to get a 1. This episode was the biggest fuck you to logic I've ever seen in the series so far. It's not even like the plot of this episode doesn't make sense, or the logic within the episode doesn't make sense, which both are true, but they're just constantly reintroducing new concepts as if they do make sense, and they don't even click together. There's time travel apparently, but also magic and technology. Ben's flying around the world as Stinkfly in 10 minutes. Is Santa real? Or not. Honestly, I have no proof of this, but I can't help but feel Cartoon Network wanted there to be a Christmas special for Ben 10, even though it's set exclusively over summer vacation, because I just can't believe they really wanted to make this. It's like, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't feel good being negative. Period. Especially when criticizing and critiquing animation. And double especially with Ben 10. But I have to be honest, this episode has one of the worst plots I've ever experienced so far in the breakdown and in the grand scheme of the entire franchise. I don't even know where to begin to break down what doesn't make sense because literally none of it does. Characterizations, I'm also gonna have to give a 2. Everyone but Ben, Gwen, and Grandpa were very flat and one-note characters. Even the main trio, which we've been following for 3 seasons now, seem to start regressing back into basic tropes and saying lines just because it sounds like it would make sense in the moment, but I feel like with a little more thought and care put into the episode, Ben, Gwen, and Max would have treated the situation a little bit differently. They seem to be victims of the plot and the writing of this episode, and there isn't much to redeem that, so it's gonna have to get that too. Visuals, I'll give it a 4 though. There was some wonderful character designs. All of the creatures, the elves looked great, the snow effects at times. There's also times where it did look inexcusably bad, which is why I can't give it a 5. A lot of the times it's just the same texture printed over and over. It's on the ice, it's on the snow, it's in the Jingulator, and once you get past the whimsical Christmas theme, I can't even say the action itself was good, just the animation, if that makes sense. In importance, it's gonna set the record as the first episode to get a 0. This episode is absolutely skippable and has 0 relevancy to anything that came before or after. It hasn't even really had too much of an impact on the fandom except for being a joke, and the cameos of Konohamaru's squad, but even then you can miss out on both of those and you're not missing anything. This is the least consequential episode of the entire classic series and no one would blame you for skipping it, and if there's no surprise, I'm going to have to give it a 1. This isn't just from my own bias, from being a Ben 10 fan for practically, what is it, like 15 years now? God, maybe I am old. Well, like 14, but everybody seems to agree that this episode is just a challenge to sit through. Once you feel like you're gonna figure something out and finally get, okay, this is what the episode's going for, it just says something else, and then we're doing something different, and then you're completely lost, and you're like, why is this Christmas? If anyone genuinely likes this episode, please comment below and tell me. Please, I really want to know if there's anyone out there that disagrees with me and really believes that this is a good episode. I would love for you to give me a semblance to change my mind with, but until then, this episode is going to rank an 8 out of 25. That concludes this batch of breakdowns. Let's move on over to the roadmap. Now, this is one of the rare moments where every single location from this batch of episodes has been identified. In Midnight Madness, the Mega Mall is said to be in Minnesota during a recap of the summer's events in a later episode, Goodbye and Good Riddance. While that episode was non-canon, this statement can still line up and give us that location. A change of face openly takes place in Salem, Massachusetts, so that's a pretty easy one. Ending on Merry Christmas, we do have a comment about Gwen comparing the desert to Death Valley, but this could just be an exaggeration, as when Ben is flying around the world as Stinkfly, we can see the location specifically defined as Texas, thus closing up this week's roadmap segment. Now, I've never had a problem with tropes or cliches. If done correctly, that type of familiarity can help the audience recognize the unique traits of the show, and how their own flavor can be applied to these tropes and make it their own. But with these episodes, I didn't really get that feeling. These episodes reminded me of how towards the end of season 1 felt, as these episodes were made at the sacrifice of the crew focusing more on the bigger, more plot-orientated episodes later this season, which we will be getting to next breakdown. And while Ben 10 has successfully taken tropes and made it their own, such as in Grudge Match, where the hero has to team up with the villain, or in Ben 10,000, where the main character meets its future self, the tropes in this batch of episodes just kinda fall flat for me. It seems like these episodes let the tropes do the driving, and the Ben 10 flavor takes a back seat, rather than it being the other way around. They're pretty fun, that I can agree, but they're also just nothing special. That about wraps up this video. You guys can stay up to date with everything that I do on my social medias and join the Discord for some community interaction. You can also join the Patreon for $1 a month for exclusive weekly updates on all of our projects such as 5 Years Later and beyond. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, and until next time, keep it fizzy.